I'm Cynthia James, and this network is about changing lives one woman at a time. We are here changing the world one woman at a time, our families, our communities, our ways of being one woman at a time, because I believe that this is the time for women emerging on the planet. And so we get to be together, learn about each other, teach each other. So I get the honor of introducing you to women that inspire me. My guest today is someone I happened to hear speak about what she was doing, and I was so inspired. I asked her to come on the podcast. Her name is Susan Friese. She's currently the Director of Community Engagement at Literacy Connects in Tucson, a nonprofit connecting people of all ages to a world of opportunities through literacy and creative expression. She's also working towards her master's degree at the University of Vermont in Leadership for Sustainability, a program grounded in the belief that the changes we create in the world are reflective of the changes and conditions we cultivate in ourselves. When I was reading her bio, she said, my belief systems, my values, my self-worth, my relationship with myself, my intuition, and my divinity are all subjects to be explored, treasures to be unearthed. Susan, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Cynthia.
I am so grateful that you're here. I've been waiting for a couple of weeks to talk to you because I really want to talk about what you're doing. But the audience always loves to know, what's your background? Where did you come from? And maybe how that leads to what you're doing today.
I think I have a pretty boring background. Just a, kid that grew up in the suburbs in North Texas. I'm from the Dallas area. I will say that as a young person, and as a young adult, I really lived my life by default. I went to school where it was easiest. I took easy jobs. I never really challenged myself or felt that I could be challenged to do something hard. And that led me, into some not great places, as you might imagine, not great relationships. I was married before, and that didn't work out. And so my career was kind of Jill of all trades after I graduated from college, but I ended up landing in nursing school when I was in my early 30s, and I became a registered nurse. And some of those experiences were great for me, and some of those experiences really didn't feel good. And I couldn't figure out why it wasn't feeling good to be helpful to people, because that's what I love to do. And so I just kept trying to explore that different arenas in nursing, and I wasn't finding my bliss. In fact, I was getting more and more into the muck, really. And then in 2008, in 2007, I remarried, and in 2008, we moved to Tucson, and that's really when my life began to shift. This big ship called life began to right itself, I think.
Yeah. Well, I love that. And what I love about your saying is that a lot of women that I've talked to and interviewed talk about the fact that they took an easier path rather than the things that would challenge them or push them or stretch them.
Yeah.
But what I read earlier is that your intuition, your divinity, your values were to be explored and the treasures unearthed. And so you're now in Tucson, and
Yes.
Tell me, how does literacy connect with you?
Well, it's again, when I came to Tucson, I was burned out in nursing. I said, I'm not going to do that anymore. And my husband is very generous, and he said, look, I love what I do. You go find what it is you love to do. And I didn't know what that was. And so I just started to explore around town. I looked at, sorry, I have a cat here that just jumped up. Um, I began to explore a lot of different things, and nothing was really thrilling me. You know, I built a house with Habitat for Humanity, and I would go stuff condom kits with our AIDS Foundation, but it wasn't just my thing yet. And just as the universe kind of guided me to you, I think, the universe guided me to this literacy organization. I didn't know anything about literacy. And when I actually got into it as a volunteer, I began to see that literacy is more than just learning how to read and write. There's a whole social justice aspect to it. And that's what really resonated with me was seeing light in people and being able to reflect that back to them. And yeah, really, really powerful stuff. Interestingly, though, I think, you know, being in a new place, so I started volunteering at Literacy Connect in 2009. I joined the staff in 2010. And everything was wonderful. But you know, that old saying, wherever you go, there you are. I started experiencing some of the things that I was experiencing back in the hospital, like I'm working too hard. I'm not appreciated. I don't feel confident in what I'm doing. You know, just all of this mind chatter crap that I thought I had left behind in Texas, and it was following me. It was creeping back into my life. And I knew I did not want it to be present. And then some pretty dramatic stuff happened. I think you're probably familiar with the January 8th shootings here in Tucson.
Yes.
Yeah. So my husband was the trauma surgeon on call that day, and he received all those patients. And wow, was Tucson grieving immense grief. And my grief was immense and prolonged. And I felt like, what is the matter with me? And I think it was all of this stuff that I had dragged behind that was following me from Tucson that got mixed up in the pot with the grief and anger and sadness of the shootings, and being kind of so close into that, because we were becoming friends with the survivors and their families. One day I was at work and someone said, "Hey, how are you doing?" And I was like, "Not good, not good." And she said, "You know, I have someone you might want to talk to." And I was like, "Is she a coach? Is she a therapist?" And she's like, "She's an empowerment coach." But really, what I call her now is my spiritual coach. And boy, if anyone has an opportunity to work with a spiritual coach or an empowerment coach or a life coach, take it, because that's when my life began to change. And that's the beginning. That was the beginning of my archaeological dig into myself, I will say, beginning to unearth these treasures. And, you know, if you asked me in 2008, "Susan, do you love yourself?" I would be like, "No." And that question makes me so uncomfortable. And now I can say, yes, I love myself. I can hold myself. I can be okay alone because I have built the foundation to do that now.
Love
it. So good.
I love that. Well, here's the thing. I think what you just described is one of the biggest challenges for women is really to own our energy, love ourselves, honor ourselves. Because we come from a culture that hasn't lifted up women, hasn't told us that we have a voice and that we matter. And so I love that you went through that process, and what you're describing is things I do with my clients. It's like, let's get you to core. Let's get you to the essence of who you came
Yes.
here to be. And I
Yes.
love that you are doing that, and you're also dealing with literacy, because my mother's mantra was get educated, get educated, get educated. And we were
Yes.
poor. We had been on welfare and all kinds of other things, and a lot of the people around me weren't invested in education and weren't necessarily literate. And so I think what you're doing is extraordinarily important. And I think that people don't really understand the challenge with being literate in this country.
Mm-hmm.
So can you
Yeah.
talk a bit about that?
Yeah. It's really interesting. The students that I've worked with in the past kind of live this tension of wanting to stay under the radar or in the shadows. But yet they want to be seen, and they want to be heard, and they want to be valued. And it's hard to do both of those things at once. And they're feeling ashamed because many adults feel like they're the only one in the world that is struggling with this literacy thing. There's oftentimes a lot of shame built into that, or that comes with that. When I was doing some basic literacy tutoring before I became in community engagement, so many students just needed to feel safe and to feel, we say at Literacy Connects, it's very personal relationships that we build, because if I'm going to ask somebody to learn something, they got to trust me. That puts them in such a vulnerable position. They really have to trust me and know that I'm going to care for them and support them while they do this really scary thing. And we have to almost unpack some baggage before we actually get to the real learning. I mean, I think learning how to trust is some real learning, actually. And what I see in my students is, as their skills improve, oftentimes they will begin to see themselves differently. That's where the real transformation happens. It's when they see themselves as a learner, as a reader, as a citizen, as a voter, as a participant in their community, as an advocate for themselves. That's when the real transformation comes along.
Oh my gosh, totally. Well, and I have felt for a really long time that, it's no secret that we've got division in our country. It's no secret that there's division around the world. But I think that but being educated, being able to read, being able to stand up for yourself, being able to step out, to understand you have a voice, is a very powerful thing. And I think the more people that can become empowered in that way, the stronger our ability to hear each other, to listen, to understand, and to create something new.
Yes, and to connect.
Yes.
I feel like that's probably, I feel like that's the most important thing I do in my job, in maybe even in my life, is recognize connections, because everything is created, everything is connected, and when we have connections with people, suddenly they're not other. They are, if I have a connection with somebody, I want to do my best for that person. I want to I want to support them in the way that they need. I'm willing to talk to them and listen to them, and maybe suspend some judgment. So I feel like when I can connect with someone, a student, a volunteer, a donor, whatever, and the I just feel like it's like a stone into a pond, because you never know where those ripples
That's
are
right.
going to where they're going to take us. Yeah.
Absolutely. I love that. I I have one last question for you, but I want people to know how to find you, how to
Oh.
find you in the work that you do, um, and connect to the kind of passion that you have about literacy. So how do people find you?
Well, you can visit us. You can see my website. Well, it's not my website. It's Literacy Connect. I say it's mine because not that I own it, but that I have a deep love for it and relationship for it. LiteracyConnects.org. So there's Literacy Connects with an S.org. And then if you go to Who Are We, look under staff, there's a picture of me along with all my other staff members. You can click on that and send me an email.
Oh, that would be great. And see
Yeah.
what they're doing, especially I want to say to you ladies, if you know anyone that's struggling with literacy, or you want to learn more about it, perhaps you want to do something in your community, this is the perfect place, as Susan's passion is tangible.
Yeah, it's nothing against nursing. I learned a lot as a nurse, but man, there's really something when you find the thing that you're supposed to be doing. Work is not work anymore. It's just you sharing your gifts. That's what I feel like. I just feel like I get to go to work today.
I love it. So that leads right into my last question. I ask every guest the same last question. What do you want women to know about awakening?
Mm-hmm. I think I I think that women need to know that they are worth it, that they are worthy of awakening, that you don't have to earn your keep, you don't have to do anything to deserve it, that you are a spark, an essence, a light, and if these words make you uncomfortable, then you're ready. Because, you know, I feel like if these words you're already hearing and you're like, yeah, girl, I'm good with that, I'm just strengthening your confirmation bias. If these words don't make sense to you, then you're ready to do the work and to find the treasure that is in you.
Oh, that is beautiful.
Hmm.
Well, Susan, thank you so much. I'm so grateful you were here. I'm so grateful that you are in a place that enlivens you, and many blessings on your path.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for the invitation.
My pleasure.
Yeah.
So, ladies, we do these once a week. I hope you'll come back and listen and share it with people. Um, every woman that comes on this show is a woman who's decided to awaken in her own way. So I want to leave you with these thoughts. You are incredible. You are a masterpiece in the making. You are an extraordinary being of light. You are here by divine appointment, and no one can do what you came here to do. So please know that you matter, and that without you on this planet, there would be a hole, because you are here because your presence is important to humanity. Have a great week, and I will see you soon.